All right, here we go.
Good afternoon.
Episode number 21.
We have recorded this 3 times. Each time we think it's no good. This time, no matter what, we're releasing it. Yeah? That's a
Yeah,
desire.
100%. 100%. You want to kind of intro us a little bit in the good thinking in you, and then I'll jump in.
Yeah, I mean, good thinking. So we work for In Good Co, or we run In Good Co. I work on the creative there and the strategy. And good thinking came out of the fact that I read way too many Substacks. I don't know if it's way too many, but I read excessive amounts of things. And for a whole year, I'm like, what is the purpose of this? La, 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 la. Like, really questioning like what the point is. And other than sharing it with you and sharing it with my husband, who is like a mathematician and doesn't really like register with a lot of the things that I say, but like is a curious individual, and then sharing it in meetings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what else can I do with this? And I talked to my therapist about it, and she was like, "What do you think you should do about it?" And I was like, "Well, like maybe I should write a newsletter, like recapping it." And she was like, "Well, why don't you do that? And if you enjoy it, then you keep doing it. And if you don't enjoy it, you just don't do it anymore." So here we are, episode 21, um, in the books, and yeah, I think I enjoy it. Like I love the feedback we've been getting. It's really fun.
Yeah.
I question whether it should be more specific, da 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 da, but it's basically just a representation of my interests. So I try to just make it like, what would I want to know? What am I interested in? And try not to overanalyze it, which for me is incredibly challenging. Um, but yeah,
Right.
I'm Chris. I write the newsletter. My pronouns are she, her, which I think sometimes gets a little confusing with the Chris thing. And yeah, I'm excited to kind of intro this other segment of it that we're doing mainly because we have fun chatting,
Yeah.
and this is like a good way for us to connect. And so we want to see if this is a good way for us to kind of dive deeper, have it be more fun, have it be a different outlet if you're not a reader, as Kirsten is. And let's see. Let's see if it's interesting, and we'd be curious to know if you guys like it.
Amazing. Amazing. I love it. So I'm Kirsten, the other half of In Good Co. Uh, I work on kind of all things business for IGC, as we term it. And I am the beneficiary of the newsletter. Like, I love all of the tidbits, all of the, Instagram sends, all of the articles, and I most love the summarization of them because, as you said, like, I just have the ADHD and don't really dig into the level of intensity that you do. And so I always love hearing, and I love digging deeper, which we do on just a lot of our calls, whether it's with clients, whether it's just you and I chatting. And so just really digging in a bit more curiously. And we've gotten, kind of great feedback, and it's really fun to have people be so excited about the newsletter. So I think we're just digging in another level and seeing how it resonates.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. I'm hoping that the feedback I'm getting you're not picking up. So I
Yeah,
hear
I'm
like,
getting it too. Yeah, I'm getting that too.
hmm. All right. Well, we'll keep it. Maybe 4 times a charm.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, the format of this, I think, and we're still figuring it out, as you can tell, is, and essentially we're gonna minus this intro right now. We're gonna try to keep it to under 30 minutes, so it's like
Yeah.
short and sweet and more conversational, and hopefully less about us and more about the thinking and the interesting things. And then we'll we'll go from there. It will
Amazing.
not be a is what it will not be, right? Like
Right.
that's not the goal. So the goal
No.
is to try to like add another layer, a level of curiosity, and kind of just enjoy a conversation, not to like read you the newsletter. So if
Yeah.
that's why you're
So
here,
nobody wants
that's
that.
probably not why you want to listen.
No. And we want to keep it under. So I'm going to dig in because there's a ton of shit I want to, and there's going to be a lot of swearing. Um, there's a ton of shit I want to dig into. There was a lot for me in this newsletter. The first kind of two headlines, I'm like, what? The NA era is over. Like, this is a situation I need to understand. And then merch is done. Like, my kids, I feel like we're so into that. Is that no longer a thing? What's really happening here? Is this true?
Well, I think the NA era is over is, obviously that's me trying to write a compelling subject line, which is one of honestly the hardest things about writing this letter is how clickbaity do you make it? How you want to try to make it interesting and you want to make people read, but you don't want to repeat it every week. So truth be told, writing the subject line is my least favorite portion of the writing the newsletter because it's the most sort of not who I am. I just want to tell you about what's in the newsletter, but you can't really do that in a line. So I want you to open it, and so I'm hoping each time, and you can tell, what resonates and what doesn't. So anyway, it's not to say really that the NA era is over, but what I think is interesting is that hangover cures are becoming big, right? That's the kind of a category that's growing. And so to me, obviously if hangover cures are a thing, NA beer only makes up 1% of beer sales. So it's not like NA is taking over the world, right? There's still people, many people who are still drinking, it's interesting. I just read, and this will be in the newsletter this week, for the first time there'll be an NA beer that's gonna sponsor the Olympics, so that will be an interesting thing, right? There is a movement, and there is a growing movement, and it's one that I'm fascinated by, have participated in, and have not participated in. I'm not in a place of judgment here. It's more just a fascination. But obviously, totally. I was drawing a parallel here of I think it's just been kind of the darling child of beverages, right? Non-alcoholic wines, which again we've worked on, and
we just
non-alcohol, and quite frankly, it was a much needed space. It was a space I was talking about for a long time before Boisson was a thing, and then not a thing. I was talking about creating that. I was this needs to be a thing. I went through IVF. I know what it's like to try to find drink shitty sugary drinks that are try to pretend like they're wine, and it is an inadequate space. But hangover cure is coming out. I think is also an interesting it's a pendulum.
Totally,
that's all.
Totally. But the hangover cures work. I've personally tried several of them, and that's the amazing thing. They fucking work. So I'm all for all sides.
What's interesting about them is that they all feel a little gimmicky, right? So I don't know if these new ones that are coming out are going to try to feel less gimmicky, or are they going to go in the realm of the functional beverages of do you really think that this thing is I think the whole lawsuit against Poppy is so funny because it's obviously it's a lawsuit, and it's it's some people just, I don't want to say that people don't have value to their lawsuits, but we know that that's a lot of the case.
Mm-hmm.
And it's you're not really drinking this prebiotic drink to really you might be drinking it because it's better for you, but you're not thinking it's going to solve your life. Hopefully not, because otherwise we've got to have ones. And I think the hangover cure thing is it's not going to fix what you've done, but it would be nice if they were less gimmicky.
But I'm also much more of the person who give me a good Instagram ad and I'm fucking in, and I will buy that in a minute.
I know you are Instagram's one last hope.
100%. But I will say, I've tried them and they work. So there's that. Okay, so moving on to merch. Because again, my 9 and 12-year-old were maybe not as much now, and thinking about it.
And that's kind of probably the point, is that your 9 and 12-year-old are into it. And merch used to be, you went to a great concert and that was a great concert tee, and I'm talking about way back in the day. But now when cool food spots used to drop merch, and it was very limited edition, and now they're having pre-sales for them, and everybody has 12 different lines of I still to this day, one of the like funniest times that we've ever spent together is watching one of our clients, Matt, like try on a piece of merch. Like everybody, this was one of the highlights of my life, truly. Like,
100%.
I can't explain it on this because we don't have enough time. But
Yeah.
like, I've never laughed so hard. But like everybody has like 12 t-shirts and everyone has 12 bags and everyone has cool things. And I think like my point is that I actually don't think that merch is dead. Like maybe to the cool kids, merch is dead. But I do think like just as once like putting your logo on a pen was acceptable and that hasn't really been accepted, you know, like promo swag hasn't been acceptable for a long time. Like
Fair enough.
basic, like I'm not trying swag is over. And I also think like the novelty thing, like I think Rode like does it really well.
Yeah.
And like but I do think people start to question like the whole like is this a thing I need, right? Like
Mm.
maybe it's just like that. Like I think, you know,
Yeah.
do I really
Fair enough.
need a $60 bag from Erewhon? No. But does
Maybe.
Kirsten have 12?
Maybe.
Yes.
Maybe. All right. Next one. I love that Casey Lewis took on Gary Vee's take. Marc Jacobs is really having a moment. Like I'm impressed. It's a brand, you know, that I certainly like grew up with. And like that they're still relevant and kind of doing that. It's impressive.
Totally. And I think Casey's point, like Casey obviously is like a legend in the Substack space, and if you're not reading her, read her. But like I think what's interesting about her point is like, you know, he was talking so much about quantity. Like you have to be posting every day, multiple times a day on every platform. And like reality is that most people don't have that. But what they do, what everyone almost has is the ability to choose what you're going to respond to and how quickly you're going to respond to it. Like, you don't have to respond to everything, but it's the speed in which you do it. And I have a great example in the newsletter this week of Special K, actually. So Special K is just this week put Molly Baz on a cereal box, right? Molly Baz, if you haven't read the letter, which then why would you be listening to this? Like anyway, she was on a billboard by Swell that then got taken down, and then you know Seed put it back up, and so she's having
It's amazing.
Molly Baz. I've been talking about Molly Baz for a while, like years possibly, but you know she's obviously like a growing star. But I think it's just the conversation that she's having around pregnancy and like
Yeah.
you know she has a platform and she's using it, and I love that for her. But like when you see this post that she did this week, like she got that photographer to come in. She's due in 13 days. She got that photographer to come, like Special K approached her. She got her favorite photographers, which I very much respect her, like reaching out to the people that she loves and making sure that it's like her people getting it, which I think is super cool. She had them come out on Memorial Day. So this is recent, right? And then they're coming out with a limited edition box with her on it. And I don't think that brands typically have been able or willing or even thought that they could do that. And the fact that, like, you know, is it going to be 2 boxes? Probably. But, like, you know, I think it's more that they're joining the conversation, they're joining it in a timely way. And, like, that is a mindset shift for brands. Like,
Totally.
that is harder for brands to wrap their heads around.
And kudos to Kellogg's because it also takes bravery. Like they're going to step into something where there's some controversy. An old school, a seemingly old school brand like Kellogg's, like well done. Bravery, like
Yeah,
if you can be brave
totally.
and attuned to your
Yeah.
brand.
Cereal, I'm not a cereal fan, but all foods that you can eat with one hand while pregnant and while just having given birth are friends of the you know, mothering
Yes.
variety. Good
Yes.
for
All right.
them.
Speaking of food, this is concerning. Are we seriously going after Ozempic now? Like Ozempic users? What is happening with
Yeah,
Nestle?
I
And
mean,
this is the proper demographic, and everyone's okay with that?
well, I mean, like, to me, I view this like, if you read further down the letter, it's interesting. Like, I write about migraines and like how that's maybe an even
Hmm.
bigger market, and everyone's just excited and jumping on a bandwagon. Like I do think there's a
Yeah,
cultural shift happening around eating. I,
for sure.
again, because of the IVF stuff and like being, having gestational diabetes and, being a geriatric pregnant person, which, basically
Me
only
too.
means I was
Yep.
36 when I was pregnant. Like I know all about, like blood sugar and da 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 da. So this is all related to that. And it's just
Okay.
another way for brands to talk about it. It's like, when high protein, do you remember, like, I mean, every fad diet in all of history has had, like, people jump on the bandwagon
For
of,
sure.
like, people, it was like when no carbs were the thing, and then it was like, like, what was the protein, like, diet that everyone was into? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
The
you know what I
carnivore and
mean.
all that. Yeah, totally.
Exactly. So I think it's
Yeah.
just like it's similar to that. What I find like super disappointing is like, like the Vital Proteins one that I referred to as like the frozen meals. Like
Yeah.
that's just repackaging something that has already existed. You're not even trying to do it in a cool way. You're not even making an effort. Like if you're going to
Mhm.
come into this space, like come in. Like there is a big space to be filled. And if you do it right, and like I think they're just coming in and like doing table stakes stuff, which like to me like the Special K thing is exemplary of like I don't think that anyone's interested in table stakes anymore.
No, we talk
Don't
about that
get
a
it.
lot. Yeah. Yeah. So not the opposite of table stakes. I hope, fingers crossed. Zach Posen, Gap. Like, are we coming back? Is this finally the fucking shift we've been waiting
I
for
think
since I was in
about
high school and it
Every
was the
time I think
place?
about the Gap, I think about when we were in New York recently, and like we were trying to literally like find a Gap, and then we were like
Right.
looking all over Manhattan, like on the map, and we were like, we'd have to go all the way to the Upper West Side to find a Gap. Um, Not that
Their
there's
real
anything
estate
wrong.
strategy seems
I'd
questionable.
have a lot of love for that area, but like it was a real. So I don't know what's going on with the Gap truly yet. Like, are they making a comeback? But it sounds like people are excited, and it sounds like at least Zach Posen is like he's pushing things and he's trying, and like
Yeah.
he's getting the right people in the right rooms, and people are responding to the product, which, as we always talk about, product has to be a portion of it.
Product and brand.
I
Product
think
and brand.
where they're going to struggle is translating it to retail. So that's what they didn't do with that amazing dance campaign that they had.
Yeah.
They did the dance campaign, and then you go into the store, and it's like womp womp womp, and
Yeah.
everyone talked about that. It was like I thought it was going to be this amazing thing when I got in there, and it was just wah. Like the online experience wasn't bad, but the store
Yeah.
experience was not good.
Sure. Fair enough.
So
Yeah.
I think
And their
that's exactly
CEO, new CEO from Barbie, yeah, from Mattel. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. I mean, you gotta
yeah.
translate
You
it.
have a lot of thoughts on retail. Like, what do you think they should do?
Yeah, I mean, I think they need to. I think it needs to be based on the product, but they just need to like. So many retail experiences right now are so fucking complicated, and like bring it back to what the brand roots are and make it shoppable in a really beautiful way. Like it should be so simple. And I think people have been trying to complicate it so much with all the things. And oh, we can make it this if you do the product right, if you put the brand out there and do it in a really compelling way. People will come into the store and just create a beautiful space that's right for the brand where they can shop, have the product there, have the right size, have the right merchandising, have some, store support, have some store people that really exemplify the brand and know what they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, it is
Yeah.
simple, but
There's
it
a
is hard
formula.
to do, as we know.
Yes.
But I do think,
Yes.
like, merchandising, like, a lot of shops aren't shoppable now. Like, a lot of stores don't really feel like you don't, it's not set up to shop.
Yeah. Right. Right.
And trialing, which is basically the only reason that I would go into a store other than with you. Like, I'm either going into stores for two reasons. I want to try something on, like
Right. Yeah, you never, yeah.
legitimately try it on, or I want to discover something. Like, those are the only two reasons that I go into a store. I don't go into a store because I like the brand, because if I like the brand, I already, like, shop it in another
Yeah.
way. And I
Right.
think, I don't know if people are nailing that yet. still.
No,
Maybe still is
agree.
good.
But it's coming back, so people better start figuring it out because
Well,
retail and in store.
retail, yeah. Retail as a alternative, which is so crazy, to online like digital ads is a thing.
Yeah.
Retail experiences, and like there are a lot of, I'll write about one this week, like TikTok brand, like TikTok, let's not say they're TikTok brands, they're brands that have become popular due to TikTok, are
Yeah.
now also realizing like there is a different lever that you pull in retail that you cannot pull online. Like the experience that you have with a brand is different.
Yeah.
Can you hear
Yeah. I
Harry?
love the
My
balloon.
daughter just got home from school and she's like in the background. So if we get a small human
Well,
being, that's
balloons went up, so that feels really fitting for Harriet. Balloons on your, that weird video thing that happens. I'll try to keep the swearing
uh,
down. Okay, can we talk about Alexander Wang's new campaign? Because I looked at that and I was like, did a double, triple take. I was like, what is happening for a high end brand to do something that's that kind of playful and kind of I thought was great.
I loved it. I think this is, to be fair, I don't think every great campaign, like I think the Gap one with the dancing one, like is an example
Yeah.
of something that was like not overwhelmingly controversial, but like great campaigns like the Molly Baz one and other things like tend to have like an element of controversy.
Yeah,
And
being brave. Got to be brave.
yeah, and I think that like them using like dupe celebrities to talk about dupe culture, which I think is funny. Like so many social media people would be like, like dupe is a way for dupes are a way for people to experience your brand, and like some people can't afford a Gucci bag, and like a dupe is the closest thing that they can get to experiencing it, and there's value to that. I think what
Totally.
luxury brands are figuring out is that you can have a cafe where you can go get a coffee, and that is basically like an affordable way of participating in your brand that can like be an alternative to a dupe. But like, anyway, so I think that this whole like anti-dupe culture, I don't know, it's a conversation that goes back and forth, and it's not good and it's great for your brand, and it's not good and it's great for your brand. And there are brands that are doing it where they're like trying to trick people, like the Olaplex one where it was like, hey,
Right.
I
Yeah.
like, here's a person
That's
using a dupe, and then when you click on it they like basically tell you why did you click on this, because it should like here, like you shouldn't
shaming.
use a dupe, and it's
Yeah,
shaming,
not great.
and I don't think that works with anybody. And I think what
Ever.
was
Shaming or
funnier
fear?
about
No.
the other like take is that it didn't get into shaming, right? Like it was like, I thought it just made fun of the
Yeah.
concept of
Totally.
it, and like kind of highlighted it, like in a way that like didn't shame. And I think if you shame consumers, you're probably going down the wrong path, and I would recommend you
Yeah. Shaming or
turn
fear,
off.
not the way to lead. Not the way to lead.
No.
Uh, okay. Dating myself, as someone who's single and like in the dating market, is this something I need to try now? Is this
I mean,
something
you
I should
basically do this.
explore?
Like, let's be honest. Like,
I
you
do
take
both.
yourself on trips a lot, like,
Yes.
and have done
Yeah.
and have done when you're with people, when you're not with people. And I think that like this comes back in society like every 5 years. It's like eat, love, pray moment of like this moment. Like
Totally.
we're
I'm
just
all
calling it
for it.
self-reading now, but like before we called it our eat, love, pray moment. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I don't think that it's that different. I do think what's different is that hospitality brands could embrace it more, and like there could be much more positivity
Yeah.
from them, like campaigns around it. I think there could be like offerings that are really unique, um, services that are really unique that could really highlight it. Like obviously there is that happening through like yoga retreats and other, but those are all
Right.
outside kind of players pointing out the
Yeah.
opportunity, and I don't see like the Hiltons of the world, um, you know, really embracing it in a way that I think they
Yeah.
could.
I think that's interesting you bring about, which I think that there's a theme in the things that we've found really interesting from Molly Baz to Alexander Wang. Like there's all these insights that are coming through, right? That we've known for a while from Me Too and kind of just empowerment and all of these things that certainly resonate with me. But like, how do you take those elements in a really positive way and share them? Whether it's a vulnerability, whether it's an empowerment, whether it's like something where you're really taking it in a positive way. You're seeing somebody who's traveling, let's say, and you're creating a space for them. And then it's really like, oh yeah, I want to participate in this particular thing. Or the sign on the door is really made for me, or the note in the room, or the fruit basket, or whatever the fuck it is. That it's really connected in that way. And we've had all these insights, or we're having all these insights, and but it's like, how do you really take those and create a great campaign or really take it into your brand, which I think this is a great example of.
Totally. Like, yeah, I just think there's a lot of, I think like Soho House, for example, has figured out that like people, let's use this as like a small example, right? And a very lo-fi, simple example. Soho House recently has been coming out with these city guides, right? That are sponsored by a suitcase brand. Suitcase brand, sadly, I do not remember. It's not Rimowa. That much I can tell you. So maybe there could be some improvements in the sponsorship. But what I love about it is that those guides are very much like speaking to like who, in theory, like Soho House represents, like creatives, and it's like, is that the reality of who's at Soho House now? But it's showing you who they want, who they aspire you to be, even if you are not there yet, right? Like you might have joined Soho House aspirationally because you want to be more creative, and it's guiding you towards that. That might be the most positive light that you could throw on it, but like I like that offering. They offer it digitally, they offer printed copies when you check in, and I'd say the recommendations are solid. Like I've tried many of them in Berlin, like they're good. Like, are they expensive? They're definitely at a price point that like is in line with Soho House, but like you're staying there, so fine. But they're good. And I think that like, to me, like there's no brand yet, and like it doesn't need to be your thing necessarily, but like so many of these could be like an offering of like, you like where to go when you are traveling in a city on your own is a different lens than when you're with like I do 20 times more things when I'm traveling by myself than when I travel with anybody else other than
yes, yeah, fair enough.
So like I love the idea of like creating an offering, whether it's something lo-fi like a guide or something more compelling, that could really like tap into that energy.
Yeah, totally. I want to chat more about this because I think moving into really empowerment and like marketing within that is where it's going. So not that Pride, Target really like that's, there's such an opportunity within Pride, and we don't have that much longer, so I don't want to spend too much on it. But like seriously, that happened again. Like, can't we learn and move in and do something bigger and more supportive and more
all
amazing?
I can say is that excuse making, it wasn't great the first time. It was shameful and sad, and the way they did it, whatever their reasoning of like protecting employees, da 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 da, like the way that they, like if you watch the videos of them sending products back to the artists they work with, and the products arrive like fucked up and like all damaged, and it's like they can't even use them and sell them to their like friend, like to their followers because they're so damaged. The whole thing is just so unbelievable. But then like for them to do it again is like, it's truly mind-boggling. And I love Target, like, so it's not
Me
like
too.
it's not a like, it just feels like what on earth happened in the organizational structure of decision making that like there was this disconnect yet again. And I will tell you, Converse pulls it off, Adidas pulls it off, like there are many brands. Levi's has a great ongoing Pride campaign, and like I do think like it's not something to take on and not truly support, but if you believe it and want to support it, then believe it and support it. But like I don't really buy, like, granted, like Target is in maybe more locations in the US than like many of those brands,
Right.
and they have more like retail locations, but like they it's yeah, I can't really
I mean, I
describe.
do appreciate. I was just in Target over the weekend with Sailor. Shocking, I know. But I do like that they have like a Pride section, literally, and like just that they're
Yeah,
brave
but that's
enough to
what
do that.
they're pulling it in locations that are not friendly to that. And that's
Yeah,
where I find the problem.
yeah,
So
agreed.
they're, obviously in California, like, or at least, on the other side of the curtain, California. On the one side of the curtain, California, like, it's fine.
Yeah,
And I would say, like, I just think that if they were going to take that approach, like, they should have taken that approach from the get-go. But continuing this like process of the rollouts are things that brands and agencies work on to a level that people don't really understand. Like, this is a whole
oh, for
strategy.
sure. There's so
It is something
much.
we work
Yeah,
on all the time. Like, rollouts are not considered. Like, where product goes, how it's displayed in every single location is considered. It each has a strategy. It's not a global, like, we just send things and hope for the best. Like, no retail brand at scale is doing that. We work on rollout
right.
strategies. We know that. So, like, to me, that's why I find it like deeply unsettling. Is like, I know that this could have been prevented, and it didn't need to happen like this. And
Yeah.
again,
Well, it's still got 25 more days. Maybe they can really make something happen. It's all month, all month. All right,
well,
we're
I'd
running
say the
into
first
the.
thing they should do is, if they're pulling product, wrap it up nicely, and if you want to send it back to the creators, send it in a care package, not in a box that's dirty. That would be first steps. Try to make things right and really try to make them right. Don't try to half-ass making things right. That never goes
Yeah,
well.
yeah. Treating your creators as true collaborators, I think is a really
And
important part of the process.
partners,
It comes
like,
back. Yeah,
the amount of
yeah,
hurt that is being felt is real, and the amount, like, you need to respect that and turn it. You could turn it into a positive some way somehow, right? Like, figure it out.
yeah. We're here to help. All right, so want to run through because we're out of time.
All right. Well,
Hoping,
we'll do faster next week. We'll
yeah.
improve.
But loving the Hermes pop up because they're not fucking selling anything. Like it's just a rad experience.
Yeah, and
Um,
it's not a new pop-up. They've had that pop-up style, and like, this is what I think, like, once you hit on something that works, like, you can keep doing it. But what I liked about that is that they had various aspects and things going on. It wasn't just like a newsstand. They had
yeah,
the food, they had, like, they went to every level, and it wasn't like overly branded. Granted, Hermes has done a wonderful job with their color ownership, so like, not every brand has that kind of color ownership
yeah,
that they have, but like, it didn't feel like you were eating a logo, like, at every moment of this
right,
giveaway.
right, yeah. Loving all of the Rube Goldberg Jacquemus. Am I saying that right?
I don't know. We'll have to go back to the
Oh,
era
well,
where
hopefully
everyone
they'll
was
do a
correcting everyone's pronunciation.
right. Okay, great. Um, Baby gear exiting taupe era. I like hadn't thought about it, but it was like it's like the black workout pants. Like it was my soapbox from what fucking 15 years ago. Like you're so right. It's happening. Tarot deck versus a coffee brand. I'll take it fucking every day. Super random, but here for it.
Yeah,
Um,
very random, but good on Christina Ricci for trying something new. And I genuinely think, like, it sounded like she worked with her partner, her husband, like a friend of hers who's an illustrator. So like, it sounds like a passion project, which actually, like, is fascinating. So
Totally. Love that. Monster stores are always amazing, and I love that, like, it's about the experience. Certainly, maybe the ROI, but really the experience. And, they get credit for it. Like I think
Gentlemen's.
they're an example of like really creating their brand so much through their store experience.
Yes, very much so. And like they really lean into weird, right? And they do it in a big way. And like I said,
Love.
retail in Asia is it's different. It's a different landscape. But I do think you can translate that. And again, that comes to a rollout strategy. That comes to like figuring out how you're going to do that stuff. But like you can always do a takedown or a version of. Obviously, not every store is going to have real horses in it. So get it.
Right. Fair enough. Yeah. Like to see that line item in the budget. The cotton candy art, Sailor got a hold of my screen, and we are now going to go to that place in Newport Beach over the summer. Thanks so much for that. And I don't know if it was you or Jenny, but I was watching that fucking stuff on either TikTok or Instagram of all of the cotton candy and the way they make that for
It's
like five
insane,
minutes.
right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
insane. It's
Yeah.
amazing. Like the fact that more brands have not rolled that out for events of creating like, can you imagine like the Hermes like logo or like they can make crazy, crazy things. Like
Yeah.
I
It's fucking
mean,
impressive.
so this winter my goal is to get to Seoul. I've spent a lot of time in Asia, but not in Seoul.
Yeah.
So I'm really ready to like dig into Asia. Like obviously Asia always has things that like we have not picked up on. It is in the US. I just don't understand how it hasn't become like a phenomenon. Like how is
Yeah.
this not the Pinkberry of our time?
Well, let's see. Maybe it's gonna be. Maybe it's gonna be. All right.
This was
That's all we
fun.
got. Yeah,
All
indeed.
right. That's all she wrote. All right.